Hello and welcome to this companion video to the AWS Internet of Things Decision Guide. I'd like to welcome our two guests today, Rob and Manish. Welcome.
My name is Manish Talreja. I am a Principal Product Manager on the AWS IoT Solutions team.
Hello, I'm Rob Moreno. I'm also a Principal Product Manager on the AWS Device Services team and focused on how do you make your life easier by making solutions on AWS IoT.
Great. Glad to have you both here. One of the first things I wanted to talk to you about was how do customers think about whether or not they actually need IoT? What brings them to having to make that choice?
So the way I look at IoT is that it helps you bridge the physical world with the digital world. So anytime you have data that you need to collect, but there is no analog in the real world, IoT will help you collect that data. For example, you have sensors in your car, right? These sensors will let you collect information about what's going on inside the car, what's on the road, and then help you make decisions based on the data that's collected, right? And so the way you look at IoT is anytime when you want to make decisions about what you're collecting from the physical world and action on that's where I would start thinking about, is IoT the right place to go?
So what advice would you offer our viewers when they're thinking about the criteria they should be considering when looking at an IoT service?
Sure. So the one thing that we always tell people to do is work backwards. There are certain kinds of problems that you want to solve right away, versus there are certain kinds of problems that you can wait for. For example, if you want to get alerts when something happens with the data that you collected, you want to action on that data right away. So depending on how you want to process the data, you would pick a different kind of a service. There might be some services that might be suited more for the edge. For example, we will offer some compute that you can run at the edge using services like IoT Greengrass, AWS IoT Greengrass, versus you take that data to the cloud and you can action that data in the cloud using services like AWS IoT Analytics. And if you are okay with processing that data way down, you can actually collect that data and work with other AWS services that we have so that you can generate charts, generate reports to do what you need to do. So always work backwards, try to figure out what you want to do, and then pick the purpose-built service that will help you solve that problem.
I encourage our customers to think about dynamic nature of their business. Take a look at their assets, their resources, people who have resources on them, and then if they ship things, if they move things around, if they basically move outside of an office, but also if they're moving inside of an office. You're having IoT data in there somewhere. You're looking at occupancy of a room so that you can actually then turn the lights off when no one's in it. Or there's too many people in it, turn the air conditioner on. One's for convenience and the ability to project more productive employees, or the other one to turn off the light is save energy. That's a very simple example, but they're examples of IoT data, meaning data that is either streaming, like a video camera, or how about a microphone that's on a pole that's listening for gunshots, right? IoT data, streaming data. The other data is more of time series data. And even though it might not change often, it's constantly changing, meaning it's constantly projecting or transmitting information. So these are not IT data. These are IoT data. Some data that describes what's going on at a point in place and time. I encourage our customers to think of their business that way. And then, as Manish said, then work backwards to say, well, how important this is for the business, and what can we glean from the data that we're collecting that we know we need to know now, but also then save that data, and then we can leverage machine learning later on to actually help us improve the operation of the customer's business.
And it also sounds like it's data that's going to impel a certain action.
Yes.
Right. And the other way to look at this is how much control do you want over the data? So you might be able to go into a purpose-built service where you're collecting the data, but you might lock that data into that service, versus there might be building blocks that you can work with where you have access to the data at the lowest layer so that you can get more information out of it. So you have to make a decision about how much control you need and then use the appropriate service using the kind of control that you need over the data.
We also want to make sure that that data, we want our customers to know that it's there for them to use sometime in the future again.
Right.
Even though it's being managed by the service, you can actually then instruct the service when you're setting it up to store it into, for example, S3, and then leverage that data later on.
Right, and also be able to combine that data with other data sources that you may have to get greater insights, right?
Right, and I'll even go one step further. Everyone's talking about generative AI, and that's basically the ability to have the data through generative AI service tell you something that you maybe didn't know. So that means it needs to be trained. So therefore, we encourage our customers to keep the data so that you can actually train models later on or soon or now in order to actually glean information that can provide either cost-cutting efficiency mechanisms or provide a competitive advantage. And that's all based upon the data. And you can mash this data up from IoT, mix it with the data you have in ERP, train it, and talk to it.
That's great. Thank you both. Really appreciate this. And we hope that you have enjoyed this and that you found it useful. Thank you.